Okay, hello everyone. I'm going to introduce Charlene Stevens. Charlene Stevens earned a BA in art history at UCLA before studying art education and photography at CSULA and film and photographic studies at the University of Leiden. Upon her return to the United States, Miss Stevens founded a digital art publication, Arcade Project, in 2016. Last year, she launched nomadic contemporary art gallery, Arcade Project Curatorial, during the height of the pandemic. Miss Stevens is a contributor at hyperallergic.com, Foam magazine, and the Art newspaper. Her collaborative photographic works with performance artist Jody Lee Key Chow are currently on exhibition at the Wing Luke Museum in Seattle. Miss Stevens lives and works in New York.
Hi, thank you, Esmé. And I would like to introduce tonight's guest, Chalene Rodriguez, who is an artist, educator, writer, and community organizer based in the Bronx. Her practice utilizes text, drawing, painting, collage, and sculpture to depict spaces and subjects engaged in strategies of survival against erasure and subjugation. And Chalene, I am so excited to have you here. Thank you very much for joining us. And first, I want to open with talking about a piece, one of the pieces that we have. This will be the last talk before Current Undercurrent closes on Friday. If you haven't had a chance, it is at the Hampden Gallery online at University of Massachusetts at Amherst. And a mutual friend, Elizabeth Axman, told me all about Chalene, and I just saw her work, and we had a conversation, and I was just so excited of what was going on. And this piece, this sculpture, Stream Channels for Flint and Puerto Rico, this is the one I just squealed about. And we had a really long talk about water and people's access to clean water, and how it's often, based on race as well.
There's a lot going on there, Charlene.
So yeah, I'm gonna just hand it to you because.
Yeah, I mean, hello everybody, all 9 of y'all and counting. Yeah, man, I mean, like, I haven't really thought about this piece in a while because this was probably my last go at doing sculpture. Simply because space in New York City does not provide for one to do sculpture and then store it. But I did this piece for the We Buy Gold exhibition. It was at the time that Puerto Rico was still reeling from the fallout from Hurricane Maria. And what was going on was that there was no water. The water systems were completely overrun and polluted, and people were resorting to drinking river water and getting sick. So there was an issue of the water shortage. FEMA, who completely pulled a Katrina in Puerto Rico. I mean, we're just completely inept. Even after a year after the worst part of the hurricane had passed, Puerto Ricans were finding warehouses, FEMA warehouses. They were breaking into FEMA warehouses and finding containers of water just rotting away, whereas people were drinking polluted river water and getting sick. So water shortage was a thing. Of course, this is happening at the same time that there is the ongoing crisis in Flint, Michigan, where their government, their local government, in cahoots with Nestle, switched the water source to a polluted and toxic water source, and basically, got everybody fucking sick. So, this was like a way for me to think about bringing those conversations together. particularly because in Puerto Rico, Puerto Rico is a colony of the United States. The way that Palestine is in a colonial situation, Puerto Rico is in a colonial situation. The United States is the Israel of Puerto Rico. I'll say that. And so one of the one of the differences, there are many differences, but one of the differences between us and them is that every 10 years, Puerto Rico votes in something called a plebiscite, whether they want to be a state, whether they want to remain a colony, or whether or not they want to become independent and be their own country. Since the inception of that plebiscite, Puerto Rico has always voted to remain a commonwealth. Why? Well, don't nobody want to be a fucking state. Like already the like colonial situation is has continued to be a deep wound for the Puerto Rican identity and our dignity and integrity as a people. At the same time, folks tend to be afraid of just pulling the trigger and becoming and fighting for independence because of the propaganda around Cuba. So they're like, oh, well, we don't want to be like Cuba,
Well,
because
also, isn't there something with, because the United States also, like with a colony, even though they call it a territory, but it's a colony. I agree.
it's a colony.
But they
Territory is
still,
insulting at this point.
yeah, but they still like are saying, I have this fear with the independence that, with the whole debt thing, that the United States is, for some reason, how will you have a colony that's in debt to you?
Yeah, well, like it's a colony, so it's to be a colony is to be in debt. The entire project is a indebtedness. That's the relation. That's the relation between the colonizer and the colonized. You are forever in my service. You are forever in my debt. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. And it's
So
even like when Haiti got independence, it's still been in debt for centuries.
Haiti is still paying for the crime of independence.
Right. They're still paying France for the lost labor cost of like having Africans be free people.
Right. So anyway, just to make a long story short, statehood has always been like, statehood has become like a new thing. Not a new thing, but it's been like reinvigorated, this argument for statehood in Puerto Rico. In this piece, the argument I'm trying to make is like, why the fuck would you be a state? Look at what they did to Flint, So it brings like, it brings our colony of Puerto Rico in conversation with folks like the internal domestic colonies of the United States, which are the Black, the brown, and indigenous people that, inhabit or steward the land of the United States, the so-called United States of America. So the pipes here are not water pipes. They're actually gas pipes. So if you ran water through this, that water would no longer be drinkable. And what I've done is just like kind of like made this form, and then the orifices are like this bright red emergency color, but they're also, they can also be like puckered lips. They kind of like play somewhere in between that imagery. And what I did was like I pumped water into the thing, and it leaks everywhere, and it's kind of messy. The intervention is the resurrection flowers sitting on the edge. I'll say something really quick about that, and then we can like move on. These resurrection flowers, or Rose of Jericho is another name that they're called. They're very like typical. You find them in a botanica. They're like, used in like a santerismo, which comes from like lucumi, santeria, that kind of tradition. These kinds of traditions, they're usually kept in the home and like meant for good luck. The reason why they're called resurrection flowers is because they're actually like a tumbleweed. So they never die. They actually just go dormant. When there's no moisture on them, they just close up. And when they touch water, they open up and they bloom. And the myth around them is that when Christ was in the desert being tempted by the devil for those 40 days and 40 nights, these tumbleweeds would gather moisture in the nighttime, and that's how he was able to like keep his self like quenched. And so like he blesses it. That's the myth around one of the myths around them. That's the one that I know. And so like the intervention here is that perhaps this resurrection flower can reverse the drinkability of this water. So it's like trying to put a blessing on this water for Flint and for Puerto Rico while bringing these two peoples into solidarity.
And then like, this, we were talking about like, Flint, Puerto Rico, we were always talking about Nestle. I'm from Southern California, and, Nestle has laid claim to the water that flows from rivers. It's like, how does some Swiss company all of a sudden own my state's water?
This is like, listen, like the common denominator in all of the different liberation fronts or revolutionary fronts that we find, whether that be, against white supremacy or against capitalism or against imperialism or whatever that is, the common denominator under all of that, the floor that we stand on is climate change, is resources, is land, is water. You know what I'm saying? So it's not just Flint in Puerto Rico or Southern California. In northern Mexico, they're fighting Corona beer for the water. We already know Standing Rock, the Sioux Nation of North Dakota was fighting the oil pipelines. Right now, currently in Brooklyn, folks are fighting fracking that's going to run oil pipes through the water source. In the Dominican Republic right now, cacao farmers and rice farmers are engaged in a fight against Barrick Gold, which is like the largest gold mining company in the world, which wants to put toxic waste dump in the main river of the Dominican Republic, which sustains the life of 4 million people. So like, all these things kind of interconnect.
And we also, it also interconnects with, the line, you can't have environmental justice is racial justice, because
it's all connected. Who suffers the most?
Black, brown people, poor people.
See what I'm saying? When we talk about capitalism, when we talk about imperialism, when we talk about environmental justice, those are all tied to a race conversation. You cannot have one without the other. That's why when we say capitalism, we say racial capitalism. My understandings of these things come from the Black radical tradition. They are linked. They are two wings of the same bird. If capitalism is represented by, like this pyramid like triangle shape, then the triangle shape which places us at the bottom of the hierarchy and them at the top, then there is a gradient inside that triangle shape. I'm just trying to give an image here with the black at the bottom and the gradient goes up to white. So that's like an image of racial capitalism for you, but it's completely linked. And because we're talking about capitalism, to talk about capitalism is to talk about money. To talk about money is to talk about resources and extraction, whether we're extracting from the land or we're extracting from bodies, the labor of bodies. You cannot have one without the other. So to be an anti-capitalist is to stop the flow of capital, which means fuck money. You ain't gonna make me work. You're not gonna rob me of my time and space as a human. I get to determine that. But we'll pause that one. We'll table that for now.
Okay, but this is one of the pieces, and I just love that one. Thank you for going into that. So
Yeah, sure.
This piece, Deity, in the spirit of the garbage offensive, and this is some of the New York history that I'd love you to share.
Yeah, sure. Somebody got a landline still. Oh shit. I just saw Liz pull up. I'm sorry. What's up, Liz? Love you.
Hi, Liz. That was Amazon. Yeah, can you tell us a little about the garbage offensive?
Yeah. So this was like commissioned by El Museo. Fuck El Museo, but anyway. This was commissioned by El Museo for a show that they were doing on the Young Lords Party. Like Young Lords is very, it's regional. The Young Lords were operational mostly in Chicago, and then a chapter and like some chapters in New York City. They were like the equivalent to the Black Panther Party. They were like the Puerto Rican version of the Black Panther Party is the best description I can give you. The Young Lords Party in Chicago specifically was like very tied to Fred Hampton's organizing over there. In New York City, they were like like the largest population of Puerto Ricanos that came from the archipelago came to New York City through Operation Bootstrap, which y'all should look that up because I'll just be long-winded about it. But essentially organizing around the Puerto Rican community and our needs. But like it would be a mistake to think that it was only Puerto Rican people, because in the leadership of the Young Lords Party, particularly in New York City, there were Black women who led, But either way, this particular piece is in reference to one of the political actions that they took. So what they would do is they would survey the neighborhood and talk to people in the neighborhood to say like, what are your needs? Like what is like an immediate need that must be met? Now this is before the time of like the thick, fat layer of nonprofits that existed. This is before that, right? So somebody should turn their mic off. So like this is what they did, and what they heard over and over again was the garbage sanitation is not being picked up. And so they decided, okay, we're going to do something about it. This is around the time that the city of New York was cutting services in the hood, in the enclaves of these like de-industrial migrants who are like an expendable labor force and who were becoming more and more unemployed because of the de-industrialization of New York City manufacturing jobs, which brought us here. Essentially, we're now leaving, so there was no work. And New York was about to be bankrupt and all of this shit. So their answer to that was like cut services, garbage pickup being one of them. So there's trash everywhere. Trash brings rats, and then they turn around and say that they don't take care of their communities and that they're disgusting and all of these kinds of things. Anyway, so the Young Lords Party decide that they're going to do something about the garbage. So they march to the Department of Sanitation in Harlem. This is happening in East Harlem. They march to the Department of Sanitation and they demand brooms so they can clean their own communities. Department of Sanitation is like, nah. So they jump over the counters, they confiscate the brooms, they go back to their communities, and they're sweeping down the block through 103rd, through 104th, weaving through the neighborhoods, gathering it all on the main avenue. I believe it was 3rd Avenue. Soon, all of the like people in the neighborhood start coming outside. The abuelitas start coming outside with their brooms. Everybody's sweeping. They pile up the garbage in the middle of 3rd Avenue, 5 feet high, and then they set it on fire. Now sanitation has to come.
Right? Where did that pile end up? Do you know where that fire, like the location? Was there a symbolic location?
It's documented somewhere. If I'm not mistaken, it was on 104th and 3rd Avenue, but I don't remember. So it's been a while since I've thought about this. So don't quote me on that. But if you are interested in that, you should definitely check out Johanna Fernandez's book on the Young Lords Party. It just dropped I think a year ago. It's a fantastic telling of this. She subpoenaed the NYPD and got all of the files of all of the like counterinsurgency intel they were doing on the Young Lords, the Black Panthers, Puerto Rican socialist independence movements. Like Very, very fascinating book, and
Was
really put the Young Lords Party to task. Like documents their amazing work, but also takes them to task on their patriarchy, on their anti-blackness, like all of that shit. So definitely check out Johanna Fernandez's book if you're interested in that. But anyway, I should talk about the art and not just the narrative behind it. So real quickly, I decided that I wanted to turn that moment into a thing and turn the broom into a deity, right? And so this broom is charred. I like lit that shit up with some lighter fluid, and then I made the teeth out of ceramic, and the idea around the teeth is like, so I wanted to like anthropomorphize the broom, right? But it's also like this idea that, well, you ever heard about the evolution of the smile?
no.
Smile, the human smile actually comes, like, it's a very primitive, like primal kind of thing about us. There was like, you actually baring your teeth to like
Yeah, because isn't every other
potential predators,
yeah.
you know, and that sort of soften into like a greeting. But you don't know if that's your friend or foe, so you show your teeth to be like, yeah, I'll bite, I got fangs. And so this, I was thinking about that and really like enamored by that idea. And so then the broom is like either baring its teeth at a potential enemy, or it's welcoming and smiling at its people. And then like the hand, the like like the this appendage in the back is an azabache, which is traditionally like it's like a little black fist that is put on babies' wrists. It's like to ward off the evil eye. And so what I did is I took this thing and I made a big one, and I bought like 100 of the little ones from the Botanica, which is like, it's kind of like a religious store for like West African traditions that are synchronized through like Latin America. Um, I created a whip out of 100 of these. And so essentially the metaphor here is that like this deity could not be armed with this whip without the power of the people. You need all those little fists in order to create this weapon to whip against this enemy. And so that's essentially the idea. If you were gonna like light a candle to, the garbage offensive, this would be the deity that you would light a candle to.
Right. Yeah, I remember talking about this one before, and yeah, thank you, because and it's just, and also just the 100 pieces like coming from the big fist, the 100 small fists coming from the big fist, like just the idea of um having to come together.
You
There's
can't
something.
do it. You can't do it without everybody. That's just the thing. You can't do it without everybody.
Yeah, so if you didn't have everybody, it would never have happened unless everybody came and joined in with all those brooms.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and then let's see, we have another one which I don't think I've seen before.
This is Black
Black
Benji.
Benji the Martyr.
Yeah, I guess because you like chose out of all of my work to show in the show, you chose a sculpture. So I kind of like felt like I should show more of like my sculptural work. So I gave you a couple pieces like that. So this was sort of like still, like in terms of like art supply stores besides Home Depot, is the 99-cent store or the Botanica. You know what I'm saying? That's where like you go to like wonder and look at things and find the pieces or whatever. It's like some of the first like kind of figures that you see, which could be good or bad depending on how, um, indoctrinated by Christianity that tradition is practicing your house. I wanted to create a Santeria statue out of this figure. Black Benji, he was the peace ambassador for the Ghetto Brothers. The Ghetto Brothers was a street gang. This is around the time in the 70s in the Bronx where like the Bronx was overrun with gangs. Like police wouldn't even fucking come here. You know what I'm saying? for like, just to geographically place myself, like this is like around the times that my parents, when they were teenagers, and like my aunties and all of them lived on Intervale Avenue. That was like Savage Skull territory. Um, but anyway, so Benji was a ghetto brother. Ghetto Brothers started as a street gang, but then they were very influenced by the Young Lords Party. So they decided that they wanted to be more political. So they had a warlord, and then they had a peace ambassador. Black Benji gets killed in a crossfire between trying to broker peace between the Black Spades and the Seven Immortals. His death was about to like set off a huge gang war, because people were like, wow, how are you gonna kill? Like everybody respected and loved the Ghetto Brothers. They loved Black Benji, and he was murdered. So people were choosing sides, and gangs were choosing sides, and this was like about to be a huge gang war in the city. But what the Ghetto Brothers do is very interesting. They call for a peace treaty, and a huge meeting called the Whole Avenue Peace Meeting happens in the Boys and Girls Club on 174th and Whole Avenue in the Bronx. Over 100 gangs show up, and they argue their beefs. They settle their differences. This is around the time that like press is just kind of like just really harping on like gang culture in New York. You know what I'm saying? So like press is all there. Yellow Benji, which was like a different Benji in the Ghetto Brothers, comes out, tells the press there will be no war. We've declared peace. All the press leaves, and he famously yells at them. And there's documentation of this. He's like, "You see, like y'all leaving. Y'all don't want to report that we made peace. Y'all only want to show us killing each other." You know what I'm saying? There's documentation. There's a lot of documentation about this. If you the most recent, I think, was the Rubble Kings documentary, but that documentary was based on the Flying Cut Sleeves documentaries from the 70s. And there's also a really shitty one called 80 Blocks from Tiffany, which you can get all this information from. But anyway, the reason why I wanted to make him specifically into this, because he's actually the catalyst for hip hop to flourish in the Bronx. You see, like because the gangs were so um, territorial. You couldn't you like the girl from that block, you couldn't go over there because you were from this block. You know what I'm saying? You wanted to go to a party over there, like you risk your life. But because a peace treaty is declared, and the peace treaty didn't last that fucking long, you know what I'm saying? Because people, shit happens, but it lasted long enough for DJs to feel comfortable enough to bring their sets outside, and for people to be able to come and party in different neighborhoods and meet different girls. So a lot of babies got born, a lot of parties got thrown, you know what I'm saying, just out of that ceasefire. And so he becomes the catalyst for that. And so then he becomes sort of like, for me, I'm like, he's like the patron saint of hip hop.
Yeah,
like, you know,
he gave his life so that hip hop could be born.
Yeah, so like just thinking through, like, well, what happens if we start declaring saints as a people, and we start declaring who our martyrs are? Let's name our own martyrs. You know what I'm saying? Kind of that idea.
So, and gosh, because we're like going like, but who would you, anyone you could think of, like a contemporary who you would consider a martyr to someone today?
Damn, that's a hard ass question.
Is anybody even who's really sacrificing today? I'm wondering.
I mean, we have a lot of sacrifices on the table, don't we?
Well, sacrifice, but yeah, we got
like the thing is, it's like, like this is a tricky territory we get in, because like we don't want to make martyrs, and we don't want to isolate people as martyrs like that. You know what I'm saying? Because they end up dead.
Yeah, and we have too many dead people. We have way too many.
Like it can't be a savior. It has to be we have to save each other. So, but that's a good question. Who should be? I think there, like, I've made drawings of people, and I've been thinking about people that have been influential to me. I think Ruth Wilson Gilmore is somebody who should be absolutely should get more love. You know what I'm saying? And like be thought about. She put abolition on everybody's tongue. You know what I'm saying? With her tireless work around abolition. So I made a drawing of her over the COVID situation. I didn't put it in here. But there are people who are doing things all the time that are really great.
Yeah. Someone mentioned George Floyd, but I don't agree because I don't think anything changed because someone got shot the day after Derek Chauvin got convicted.
That's the thing is like George Floyd did not want to die.
Right. He wasn't a willing martyr. He
What I'm
just
saying, like, I'm in a position right now where like the way that I feel about it is like I can't even look anymore.
Yeah, I haven't
The
counted.
dead is just keep piling up. Like they fucking indicted Chauvin and then they put 4 bullets in that young girl's chest the next day. You see what I'm saying?
I had to step away and stop counting because I just had to get back to work and try to survive. And the bodies just kept piling up. And
Yeah.
I've lost count after the Chauvin conviction. I just needed to protect my mental health. And
that's where we are. That's where we're at here.
so I can't follow every death because it'll hit me. It's like every other day someone's dying.
Yeah.
And I'm still expected to pay my rent and keep my lights on.
I ain't paying shit. Take me to court.
That's the problem. My landlord.
Take me to court, man. Listen, you know what? I ain't even gonna say that. Fuck it. Let's keep going.
That's for another conversation. Let's go to the next one, Esmé.
Don't pay your rent. Fuck these niggas, man. What's your money funding?
My money's just making someone rich who's already rich.
Yeah, funding Israeli settlements too. But whatever. Moving on. Loitering Mule. All right, so then we switch to painting. Yeah, man, like I'm not much of a painter. I'm more of a drafts person, but I love painting. And so I do it anyway. I like to think that like I'm not trained as a painter. Like my art education was very like choppy. I did like night school for 2 years in illustration, and then I didn't go back for like another 10 years. And then when I did go back, I did like critical theory. I'm a fucking nerd, So like this is like pieced together my training as an artist. And I was gonna paint any fucking way, and then like say that, the imperfections in my work just kind of like give it the character that it is. So
yeah. And
take it or leave it. Take it or leave it.
Yeah, I have 2 kids when you did the essential workers when we were in lockdown.
You see, those are drawings. Drawing is
those are drawings. Okay.
That's my soul right there. That's my hand.
Those were
painting, on the other hand, is a different thing. It's just a different way of moving. But I do love painting, and I really wanted to think about spaces a lot. Like I was like really interested in like spaces. Like a friend of mine, Kazembe Balagoon, who's like a really amazing revolutionary, an intellectual, said to me, he said this to me about like my community organizing work with my group Take Back the Bronx. Like make sure that y'all are documenting, the work that you're doing, because like y'all like poor and working class Black and brown people advocating for themselves get erased, and I kind of like graduated that thinking into my practice. I'm like, I talk about gentrification, I talk about displacements, I talk about erasure and all these things so much. I need to actually think about documenting spaces too here. So I was really about painting the hallways of like my building and the buildings that I've lived in. I was really trying to get that tile and hold that space. And then, like thinking about like these like like this object here. If you're not from New York, you're probably like, what the fuck is that? This is like so the piece is called The Loitering Mule, and it's a reference to the signs in the background, because like in the buildings, the common areas of the buildings, their signs are always there. They don't want people hanging out in the hallway. No ball playing, no bike riding, no this. There's all these rules imposed by a landlord that probably lives in Long Island, who like inherited this property from his grandfather and needs a GPS to get there. He just collects the rent through his property management company. You know what I'm saying? Like in one lump sum, doesn't even know that sign's been there since before he was born. So then, it's like calling into question this idea that we don't even get to say how we use the common areas in our own buildings, and fuck that. And, these are the spaces where we meet our neighbors and we reweave a social fabric so that we can become those fists on that whip. Otherwise, you're just like living in a box with somebody above you, below you, to your left, to your right, to the front of you, to the back of you, and everybody is suffering and nobody's saying shit to each other. So you can't organize and do anything about it. And the bastard's still getting your money.
Yeah.
So there's that. The shopping cart is like a way to really call towards like a very New York thing. So I call it the New York Mule. This is how we do our laundry. This is how we do our groceries. If you don't got this cart, you lugging that shit on your back like this, oh hell nah, man. This cart will save your life. This shit is like a BMW around the way. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you can't age in the city without getting one of those.
Nah, you can't, man. I'm not carrying that big ass bag of laundry down the street. I'm rolling it in my BMW. This is shit right here.
No.
So, it's just like a archiving spaces and subjects, but also objects. How's it going on time? We still good? I told you I was going to ramble a lot.
We're going to have to rush through. What do we have? I think
y'all pick one more. I'll talk about it.
Well, we have even though I love the machete, but we also have the essential workers that are in the.
I purposefully did not put. I did put a fucking essential worker. Okay, I did put this one on purpose because I didn't want to do the whole COVID essential worker conversation. I feel like that shit is tired already. Not that it's not important, but I feel like that gets talked about a lot. Yeah, but I'll talk about it. Fuck it.
Well, I mean, we can go past because we still have. I mean, I kind of want to hear about the machete, But
no. Let's talk about that one because it's an important moment. Okay. I just didn't want to do the whole COVID thing, but
yeah, neither did I. But it was a current thing, and I'm glad I put it in. I'm glad I included, a couple of the drawings in the show because.
Well, I remember now why I gave it to you. I was kind of half asleep when I sent those slides, but now I remember why I gave it to you. I gave it to you because, restaurants right now in New York City are making more money than they did before COVID because they got those outdoor spaces and their delivery is doubled up. They're banking. They are fucking banking. And they're banking predominantly because people are at home ordering out. So really who's holding up the economy in New York City is undocumented delivery guys.
Who don't get paid barely get paid anything. And
not only do they not get paid anything, it's them and there's the line cooks who have to show up to work to cook all the food. But in order to continue to make more profit, what restaurant owners are doing is they're cutting the staff of the cooks. So it's less cooks cooking triple the food. The delivery guy's making zero money. They're fucking pocketing all that money.
I remember when they were arresting them for using e-bikes, trying to make their life easier rather than huffing and puffing around the city for a $3 tip.
Oh man, you know what I'm saying? So yeah. So then this piece is called "Essential Workers Unmasked" because I was trying to be clever with the title. It's really unmasking. Capitalist exploitation. This is how it works, right? Right. You see it right here. They're making more money now, not less. Don't let them fool you. You know what I'm saying? So we know now, unfortunately, it's driven by mostly nonprofits. I know that nonprofits are an extension of the state and they do a lot of service, very necessary service oriented things, but they are also a tool that undermines our ability to organize organically and collectively with our neighbors.
Well, if our system was working, we wouldn't need nonprofits. Nonprofits are like Band-Aids on dams.
Well, they do the work that we should be doing ourselves.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But anyway, not to go on that tangent. There's a group right now called the Deliveristas, and it's essentially like it's organized by nonprofits, but it's the delivery guys are organizing and trying to form their own kind of like union power, and it's a really beautiful thing. And so we're kind of at this moment where like what I'm saying, like as a Marxist, like who are the workers, like who is the proletariat, and all these questions, like it's not 19 fucking 36, it's not like guys in the mines, or I mean they are too, like, or like this kind of like industrial images. I'm imagining those Diego Rivera paintings, but it's actually the unemployed or the underemployed and the gig workers and the delivery guys, like this is like it's the precariousness that unites us. And so we need a fucking unhoused union. We need a like fucking like this is like the future. We have to organize along these lines to save all of us. You know.
Yeah.
I guess it's like back to those little fists again.
And we have a couple of minutes, and I want to know if you have any questions. Feel free to raise your hand or put something in the chat section. And while we have this like last couple of minutes, I do want to go to that machete, the one that I had.
I would love to. I would love to. I could give you something real good. I was really eager to talk about that.
I love like I was talking to.
Is there a way to zoom into it, Esmé?
I love the iconography of the machete in New York because it has so much. I mean, there's just so much behind.
All right, so I'll just say something real quick about this. So this is around the time. This is like the last piece I made, thinking about like those. I was making I was using lottery tickets. I was doing a lot of collage work using those lottery forms, which you fill in the bubble with the numbers. I was like cutting them out into bubbles, and they were like kind of like supposed to be stand-ins in the work for like false hope, like and so like that's the kind of like the forms, those pink forms behind there, like are a reference to that. But who's standing there is this woman named Rosa. Doña Rosa is like, she's like this woman that I became really close with at my grandma's senior center. Because she reminded me of like my mom's godmother. My grandma died from COVID in November. So I'm like, oh, this shit is still like right here. But my grandma was really white, yo. You know what I'm saying? Like, and my grandfather was really, really black. That's why I'm like this like haba light skin ass situation. But like, but this woman, like I was really drawn to her because like she was a black Puerto Rican, and she just like reminded me of that side of the family, and I was just like really enamored by her. She's still around. Like, she's actually the only person I talked to from the senior center when my grandma died. But anyway, I wanted to make a drawing of her because I was like kind of in love with this lady, like, and like it was around this time that I was thinking about the idea of intergenerational solidarity. And intergenerational solidarity because I'm 43, so I'm like in between this, like I'm not exactly put out to pasture, but there's the acceleration of young people coming up that are radicalized are like so fast that you know what I'm saying, like I'm very quickly going to be put out to pasture, you know what I'm saying? So like I was thinking about like what is it about the arrogance of the older generations that don't want to learn new things from the younger people, like they fucking like refusing to learn pronouns and shit like that, but what is it about the arrogance of young people that want to reinvent the wheel and burn fucking sage to their ancestors while literally disrespecting the ones that are around them? And not, why can't we open up to each other and try to meet on a common ground, and how important that is, how important it would be if like we talk about police abolition, if all them dudes holding down the corner would actually take care of the elders in their community, and then the elders in their community would like save them a plate of food at night. You know what I'm saying? Like that exchange of solidarity, that would bring about abolition, because we won't need fucking pigs to like mediate our disagreements. We would do it amongst ourselves. So back to the idea of weaving a social fabric. It's just always a thing for me. So In her thought bubble, in the piece, there's a young man on a bike. He's popping a wheelie, but the front of the bike is the walker. You see what I'm saying? So it's like kind of a way of thinking through that idea of like, it's like my hope. Maybe it's my hope. Like behind, like amongst all the false hope, here's the real hope,
I think in middle age, because I'm looking at, because I'm a Gen X, looking at
Solid, yo.
millennials and boomers fighting.
Listen. 1977. We saw the tape cassette, the CD, and the advent of the internet. We were born alongside the neoliberal turn. Like we're like the in between. We the crack generation babies.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
the
Like we straddle both that shit, and we like looking at boomers and millennials. Like, what the fuck y'all talking about? Because we see both sides. It's a very interesting place.
Yes, it's like I'm not yet old, but I am facing ageism. So I'm not trying to talk a bunch of shit about people older than me because it's what's happening to them is beginning to happen to me.
That's the acceleration of time. That this is what capitalism does. It accelerates everything. Is happening faster and faster and faster and faster. Yeah, we can't keep up with each other. We can't keep the technology does this to us too. Like we cannot keep up with each other. It gives us short-term memory. You know what I'm saying? Yesterday, 5,000 people were out for Palestine. Are people talking about Palestine today? For how long are they gonna talk about that before the new thing happens? It's like this acceleration constantly is really bad. We really need to slow down. There's this really amazing guy. His name is Arabeyo Okumulafe. He has a really interesting talk on YouTube. It's called Let Us Make Sanctuary. I highly recommend everybody go check that shit out.
And thank you. I wish I need to write all of this down because you've had so many resources. I also, one person that's in the audience, is, thinking about art school, and you've talked about a very non-traditional path to where you are now. Could you tell us a little more? And also just for someone who's considering, break, getting an art education,
All right, I'll tell you what I think.
Yeah.
Go to art school if you want to. Go and meet other people who make art and talk about that shit. But don't be of the art school. Be in it, don't be of it. That's not me. That's Fred Moulton. That's what he means when he says the undercommons, the fugitivity of it all. Go be around that and don't pay the fucking bill. What else are you gonna do? What else are you gonna do with your life, man? Go do that shit. No matter what direction you turn in, you're gonna be put in a situation where you're indebted. No matter what you do, no matter which way you turn, because we're not free. These are the conditions of unfreedom. We all live it. In every aspect of our lives, we all live conditions of unfreedom. So really, you're just choosing which path of unfreedom you want to go. And if art is a passion, then walk that walk. It's going to be full of bullshit. Know that from the front. But there will be moments for you. Just do it, bro. But don't pay the fucking bill. I send that shit into forbearance every other fucking day.
I just got a call today.
I mean, listen, I grew up in poverty. I know what it is to like have your mother put the fucking bill, the Con Ed in your name when you like 12. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just get by, and we just keep getting by until we die. Fuck it.
I used to think if I die in debt, I'm winning because I didn't have to pay it.
I'm not like, what?
If I die with
anything
debt and no one to pass it to, I won.
No masters.
Yeah, because it is a way to enslave us. I can't.
We have no masters.
We have no masters. Loans.
Don't recognize it. Take me to court. I don't care. What? You're gonna ruin my fucking credit? What? You want to buy a house? Do you understand what they're doing to the land? You want to buy a house? That's what Fred calls the psychological pitfalls of home ownership. Also, try to read Fred. He'll scramble your brains a little bit. But when you catch it, It's good.
I am. Oh, Elizabeth, hello. Oh no, turn on your. Are you waving or are you going to ask a question? Oh, we see you now.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
And thank you for introducing me to Shellyne.
You're welcome.
Elizabeth is responsible for all of this.
Of course I am. I have two questions. Number one, why are you so sexy? Number two,
from my mama. Next.
number two, so what are your thoughts on a lot of like Black and brown artists who don't have the same like socialist and actual activism that some artists such as yourself have, trying to use imagery of like George Floyd or
everybody trying to make a buck off of BLM.
Exactly. So I'm wondering what your thoughts have been, because
that's a great question, Liz. I have an answer for you.
Okay, thank you.
Well, look, I was scrolling through my Instagram earlier today. Like, I was like in 2018. That's how far back I gone. Because I was looking for this really dope picture that like my comrades at Decolonize This Place had posted that I was sure that I had reshared. It was of like a brother in Gaza waving a Puerto Rican flag, but not just any Puerto Rican flag, because there are two. There's the light blue, which is for independence, and then there's that dark blue, which is like the ugly American flag blue, which we don't recognize that flag. But they were waving the flag, so it was like a solidarity thing. And I was like, in my feelings about everything, but whatever. But one of the things that I came across was this video of me complaining. I was at One Police Plaza, and it was the first day of the Daniel Pantaleo trial. Daniel Pantaleo is the man that put Eric Garner in the chokehold and killed him. Now, he was never indicted, but this was a trial to get him fired. There was nobody there. Other than, NYC shut it down, which is like, movement people. There was a couple of movement people there, but by and large, literally that shit was empty. There were more press there than there was people. And I was fucking pissed that day. Cause I'm like, yo, niggas is like out here like getting careers off of BLM. You know what I'm saying? And like waxing poetic like they fucking Asada Shakur or like fucking Stokely Carmichael. And it's not represented in praxis. We needed a show of force that day. We needed a show of force for those 2 weeks. Not because Instagram and the news channel has completely fucking inundated you with this information and incited in you a passion about this issue, but because it's our duty to be there and to see this shit through. Not when the moment passes. This is what I mean about the acceleration of time with capitalism. People moved on. This man did his thing. Nobody was there. It was like 15 people on the last day of the trial that marched to his house in Staten Island and stood in the rain, being like, we ain't gonna fucking forget. Where was everybody? This is what I mean. You know what I'm saying? There's something about this that's like, like white liberalism that gets into our blood. That's disgusting. And we need to really tease that shit out. This is why you gotta like get Fanon in your body. You see what I'm saying? We got to tease that shit out. Lorraine O'Grady said, last time I was in Brooklyn Museum, when I saw her there talking to Aruna, white supremacy hasn't needed white people for a really long time now. And so we need to think about how we behave as agents of that shit by becoming stand-in voices for white liberalism for these issues, or how we commodify these issues, these real fucking things that need to be seen through. We need to think about how we commodify that shit for our careers, selling it as fetish objects to fucking rich white people. that want to hang George Floyd's head on the fucking wall like a moose. Oh, I own that now. Might as well just cut your own fucking head off and hang it there.
Yeah, it's just been really bothering me. And the
I
more
mean, this is the state of where are. We are courting at this moment in time. We are courting. I'm gonna say some flagrant shit, man. Fuck it.
getting very
We are courting at this moment multicultural imperialism. Look at Sanford Biggers in this fucking piece in the Rockefeller Center. A chimera of an African head with a fucking body, the classical Greek body holding a liberty torch. What are you doing, bro?
he is. Oh, let me.
You see what I'm saying? Like, what? Like, we have to think about the things that we do. Like, what are you building a shield for?
Yeah.
And it's not to diss. I like that he has made work that I loved, but when you're not thinking critically about the context that you stand historically, you end up doing dumb shit for power, for imperialist power. You end up in the service of imperialist power. Now, is that what you want to do? Maybe that's a question that you need to ask yourself. If that's what you want to do, if you're like, fuck it, I'm trying to get paid, I'm trying to be canonized, then say that shit. But don't fill your fucking mouth with like George Floyd's name. Don't fill your mouth with that shit. You know what I'm saying? That's whatever. And like, that's why niggas don't fuck with me, and that's fine. Do it. I got Aisha right here.
Oh no, Aisha. Well, I mean, yeah, that could be a whole other hour.
Yeah, I gotta bounce. Y'all gotta bounce too. It's 6:01. So
well, we'd rather Elizabeth, thank you for those questions. And Chalene, thank you so much for coming on. So I really, just listening to you, I learned so much. I've only been in the city 9 years. I've learned more about the city in this conversation than I have in 9 years. And as I said, your work's amazing. And yeah, and also your voice, anything that comes with your voice is incredible. But like Elizabeth and I,
like, it's important that we are like, that we recognize where we stand and that we move from that place. Where you stand and you move from that place, But
also, I would love to get that reading list.
Shout out to Manuel Abreu.
You have an amazing.
You need to have them on your shit next.
Okay. Well, actually, next week we have Katara Peterson, and I'm very excited.
Dope.
So come in next week. This is the last. This is the last talk before Current Undercurrent closes on Friday. So I would like to thank Linda Griggs and Sally Curcio and the Hampden Gallery at the University of Massachusetts Amherst for the opportunity to co-curate this exhibition. Thanks Shellyne again for being part of this exhibition, because it just it wouldn't have been the same without your incredible work. And the Flint, the piece, the Flint in Puerto Rico, just it still sticks with me. Just the whole. We could have kept talking about that forever. And this.
Well, then I did the thing. that I was supposed to do if it starts with you. So.
And thank you, and thank you everybody for joining me. And if you'd like this, it's going to be on YouTube, IGTV, and on the Arcade Project site. So thank you very much.
Thank you all. Peace out.
Bye.